So we did have another stop earlier on in the Golan Heights, but we were there only briefly and it really didn't have any biblical connection. Here we're at the city of Gamla, and I don't know if we visited it either of the times that we went together, honey. This is a more recent discovery, I think, and I think Daniel and I were the ones who visited this place. I will say that whenever I hear the name Gamla, I'm constantly thinking of Gamla Stan in Stockholm. So it's not, it throws me off to hear it. Obviously this is a very different place. But Gamla turns out to be a rather important city even in the Bible, and it's not mentioned by name, but it is mentioned by reputation. It is literally the city on a hill that cannot be hidden. Now, you can't see, actually you can. You can see Galilee, the lake, right over here. So you could see the lights from the town from the sea. And as a result, it is the source of his parable about how you can't hide what's lit up. Jesus also spoke in Gamla, despite the fact that, again, it's not mentioned, but he did go to the surrounding towns around Galilee. This being one of the biggest at his time, was most assuredly a place where he visited and spoke in the synagogue, despite not being mentioned by name. Gamla was built in the Hashemite period during the Maccabees, so it was only founded about 200 years before Christ, and it didn't last much long after Christ, for that matter, because this was part of the revolt that precipitated the destruction of Jerusalem. The revolt here started in 66, 67 AD, and Vespasian sent troops to this place from about where I'm standing. But of course, from this distance, they could see from that little round tower over here, and could basically undermine their walls as the Romans were approaching, because they didn't build with foundations. After crushing the Roman army the first day, what was left of it arrived and basically gave them no quarter. In a sense, this is kind of like the Goliad to Masada's Alamo, where everybody was going to be wiped out, and knowing that, the citizens of I was about to say the citizens of Goliad, but the citizens of Gamla, once the Romans came through the breached walls by that square area, that's the synagogue, they came up to the top of the hill and leaped off. So the story here is very much the same as Masada, because they were going to die either way, either by the Romans or by their own hand, and they decided that it would be better to die on their own terms rather than be brought in as a slave, perhaps, or worse. One of the interesting things about Gamla here is that not only does he reference it as the city on a hill that cannot be hidden, but Jesus also speaks of when the disciples ask him about the end times and what the signs would be. One of the things he concludes with, where the bodies are, that's where the vultures will congregate. And while I haven't been fortunate enough to get them on the camera, but there have been like 4 or 5 of them flying overhead. This is where the vultures congregate even now. Whether the remains are of any taste to them or not, I don't know, but it not only has history and biblical references, but also a bit of prophecy, because he was saying this before the revolt and before the destruction of Gamla.